Hello everybody, my name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. I hope you're all doing well and we've got some exciting malicious compliance stories, so let's jump into our first story of the day by CM Childs 98. This isn't a real contract, you need to take this seriously. This story occurs about 6 years ago in my high school chemistry class. I don't know what made me think of it or why I hadn't thought of it before, but here you go. My high school was a project-based high school, meaning that most of my classes were centered around group projects. This meant working with students that we normally didn't want to work with to do projects we didn't want to do. Most classes had a rewritten general contract that protected students if they were the only ones to do work, as well as giving general roles to each member of the group. But still, most project contracts were generally ignored. In the first week of my sophomore year, I'm taking a chemistry class with my best friend, and we are given the opportunity to choose a partner to do a very quick project. My best friend and I quickly agreed to knock this project out together. I believe the project was as simple as finding an at-home science experiment and recreating it while describing the very basic chemistry principles. Think using heat to change states or using baking as an example to describe how combining different elements can create a new compound. The chemistry teacher didn't have a preset contract like other professors and instructed us that the rest of the day we would be writing up our contracts and sending them to her by the end of the period. Now, one thing to know about my best friend and I was that we were constantly doing random fun projects outside of school without a problem, and both agreed that the project contracts were generally dumb. So when the teacher told us to create our contract, we didn't take it seriously. We had 3 stipulations in our contract, and our signatures at the bottom, with a very brief sentence stating that a failure to allow the stipulations would result in a removal of the group. Our 3 stipulations were as follows. 1. Don't be annoying. 2. Don't get annoyed. 3. Get the work done. Signed me and my best friend. We sent the contract to the teacher roughly 10 minutes after she gave us all instructions, and we began to bullcrap the rest of the class period away. Teacher then proceeds to print our contract with a handful of other groups and walk down the hall to get the contracts. I don't know if she didn't look at it before she printed, but when she gets back to the classroom, she has a look of pure disgust. OP and best friend, are you serious? This isn't a real contract. You need to take this seriously. Send me a new group contract by the beginning of class tomorrow. And that's what we did. If she wanted a real contract, she was getting a real contract. I went to my best friend's house after school that day and we proceeded to write up a 20-page contract with all the bells and whistles. I'm talking preamble, definitions, group member rights, obligations, provisions, action steps, steps of removal, signatures, as well as random articles, sections, and clauses. The whole 9 yards. If there was a remote chance of it happening, we included it. We emailed her the new contract that night and awaited the next class. The next day, we walk into her class ready for whatever reaction came our way. We sit down and after explaining to all the other groups what we were doing that day, she walks over to our desks, plops the contract on the table and says, "You guys are ridiculous, sign it." That contract was used for every group project the rest of high school, whether we were given a rewritten one or not. After all, we needed to take it seriously, didn't we? This is a great example of clean and wholesome malicious compliance. You're still succeeding in class, you're still getting the work done, you're still fitting the teacher's recommendations and instructions. You're just making a big joke of the situation as a whole. If this was you, would you have gone to the effort of writing a 20-page contract just to annoy the teacher? Let me know in the comments below. Our next story is by luridfox. You have to accept my coupons, it's the rules. So when I worked for Target, I was over at guest service, and this included the registers and self-checkout. We had a lot of issues with coupon scammers. Now, normally I wouldn't care, but it had gotten so crazy that we were losing tons of money due to it. The manufacturer will only pay out if it is valid in most cases and only for the amount shown, and we're needing to crack down in order to avoid more issues. One example is a lady applying a $5 off a new Swiffer, around $20, but the machine would sometimes not catch it if they applied it to a $4 item, so they get $1 free for whatever. People do this kind of thing a lot and will just go resell the items or return them to a different store for profit. The point of sale systems are smart but prone to mistakes. For this reason, the scammers loved self-checkout. I was covering the break for the employee working self-checkout and I noticed a lady doing a lot of weird things, inserting tons of coupons. Soon, she called me over because one wasn't working. I could clearly see a lot of high-value coupons and not a lot of high-value items. She said not all her coupons were working correctly and if I could just manually enter the discount because we have to accept her coupons, that it was the rules because these coupons were correct. I said I would need to get the coupons out from the tray to confirm them, and then I could. I used my manager keys to open the machine and took out the coupons inside. Luckily, it was at the beginning of the day and hers were the only coupons. As I looked through the coupons and looked at her stuff, not bagged yet, I confirmed what I knew to be true. Lots of fraud. On principle, I acknowledge the cleverness of it all, but people's jobs are at risk from the loss and I don't like to personally be scammed. I told her I would correct all the coupons, so I quickly went in and took out the ones that didn't apply and left the valid ones. I handed her a stack of about 15 coupons and let her know they did not apply. I told her that I appreciated her calling me over to verify the coupons for her, and that I would make sure to let the other stores in the area know of the error so that we can correctly apply our rules that say we take coupons. In the end, her total went up about $50 and she left without getting anything. Thank God she insisted on following the rules. She would have gotten away with free things. I think this lady got lazy and slipped up. If you're going to be committing fraud with coupons or anything, and some of them aren't working, I wouldn't think you would want to call an employee over and open yourself up to a chance of incrimination. Our next story is by KleptoCyclist. Fine, then no package for you. I work as a bike courier delivering all sorts of various packages of your online orders. I've been doing this job for around 6 years on and off and have always made an effort to be kind and patient with all my customers. However, given the nature of my job, we do our best at keeping the pace high. The rules for delivery are as follows. Try the address. If no response, try a neighbor if a neighbor is available. Try between 2 out of 5 neighbors if possible. Leave it with them. If not, we return the package to the depot and try another 2 times on the next day. If still not possible to deliver, we hold the package 2 weeks until finally shipping it back to the original sender. There is some discretion left to each courier on what to do with the package. Our branch rarely has packages that are not delivered over 3 days and pretty much never have sent them back to sender. However, it does happen. This particular day I was doing the evening shift, delivering various packages to people's homes. It is one of the better delivery times since it's past 6 p.m. and most people are home from work by then and able to receive their orders with no hassle. About halfway into the shift, I arrive at this lovely suburban home. I have a relatively big box to deliver to them. To my delight, as I walk up to their door, I see their whole family having dinner through the window. Now, I'm no fan of disturbing family time, but they ordered something and it's my job to deliver it too. So I give them a little wave as I approach their door and decide not to ring the bell as they saw me flailing their package around. The package is also very clearly branded from a specific brand, so they should know it is something they ordered. They all look at me for a hot minute and continue eating their food. Odd, but maybe they just didn't see me? I ring the bell and look through their window again. They all look at me, I point to their package and lift an eyebrow. They all look back at me, look at their food, and continue eating. Alright, now I'll ring once more, but this is getting frustrating. I ring one more time, glance through their window, and basically shove the package as close to the window as possible as if it's a portal to their backsides. And here is when the malicious compliance starts. They look at me and now visibly annoyed by my presence, they shoo me away. Now this pisses me off. I treat people with respect and it's been a good 10 minutes I've been at their door, wasting everyone's time. So I walk back to my bike, shove the package in my backpack and look at my tracker app. I have to report the status of the package. Delivered, neighbors, back to depot, not possible to deliver. I decide to look at what our interaction was, which was a refusing to accept package. They saw me, saw their package and indicated to me they didn't want it. So I marked it as such, meaning it's now delivered back to sender. Back at the office, I mentioned this ordeal to find out the particular address has been acting like this ever since, and my super basically said it was all good by me. Week later, I found out they also blacklisted the address and refused to deliver any packages there anymore. They now have to either order through different services or pay for a different shipping company or pick up at our depot instead. Edit. For the many of you asking why I didn't just leave it on the front porch as is custom in the US apparently, this didn't happen in the US and it is expected that a delivery person can only hand it off to the person named on the box or otherwise a neighbor. A signature is also expected to be required for most packages, hence not really being allowed to leave it on their front porch without bothering them. Finally, leaving it on the front porch would have been as good as dropping it on the sidewalk as they essentially had no front porch. I'm really glad OP put the edit in at the end clarifying these things because, as American, all throughout I was like, well, usually delivery people just leave it at the front door or whatnot, but it makes a lot more sense when you realize this is a country besides the US. They operate a lot differently. And it would also definitely be a problem if it's a house that's literally right up on the street as OP explained. Our next story is by medicff. You won't listen to me? Wonder if you will hear this sploosh. My wife had her water break at home with our first kid. So we made the drive to the hospital, made pretty decent time if I do say so myself. Normally it takes about 30 to 35 minutes, but we did it in exactly 20 door to door. As she got out of my truck, there was a sploosh as more water gushed out. It soaked her pants and socks and shoes. It was pretty funny to see her standing there soaked and having steam come off her pants and shoes. It was steaming because it was early March, so still below freezing. We go through the admitting process that I guess you can cut the line in when you're in active labor. We were told this after waiting for 4 others, but I digress. As we get up to labor and delivery, the nurse tells my wife she has to sit in the other chair, not the wheelchair I pushed her up in. My wife tries to say she should stay where she is, but gets cut off. So she tries again and gets cut off yet again. So I figured maybe the nurse would listen to me and I try to tell her that really my wife should stay in this chair because of all the splooshes so far. The nurse is getting shorter and grumpier, not letting us speak up about the upcoming monsoon of baby juice this lady will be having to mop up soon. My wife and I look at each other and mentally say that if that's what the nurse wants, that's what she's gonna get. My wife shrugs and says, okay, I'll sit in that chair. The nurse was trying to look busy with the papers so she won't have to help my wife stand up and move chairs. As I help my wife stand up and get ready to clear out of the splash zone, exactly what we knew was going to happen happened. The nurse, now with wet shoes, looks at us a bit angrily at first and then lets out a resigned sigh and says, I should have asked if your water had broken. We said, yep, that's what we were trying to say. Then my wife and I squished and sloshed our way to the delivery room. A mere 4 hours and 23 minutes later, we met our beautiful son. After reading this lovely story, I can imagine later on the parents will be able to regale their son with the tale of how they were delivered and just the horror on their face as they hear about the slishing and sloshing. And our final story of the day is by Cranky Throwaway. Fine, then just quit. Okay. So when I was freshly out of high school, I hadn't decided on what I wanted to do with my life, so I got a job at a pizza place near where I lived. I've always been the type of person who would rather work than sit at home, and I don't have a ton of friends to hang out with. They started out having me making the food deliveries once or twice a week, but that quickly turned into them calling me in daily about an hour after they opened because the managers/owners didn't want to make the deliveries and they were the only ones working front of house. Like I mentioned previously, I didn't mind coming into work and would always say that it wasn't a problem. About 2 weeks into me working at the pizza shop, the owners insisted that I learn register because they were no longer willing to do it themselves during the week. Okay, sure, no problem. It's just more money for me. They continued training me in every aspect of running the physical business over the next month. Every once in a while, the owners would say they want to make me a manager so they can leave whenever they want. Great, I thought. As time went on, I would work anywhere between 60 to 80 hours per week because other employees would call out or not show, and the owners didn't want to stick around to deal with it. They even trusted me to hire a server and a delivery driver and cashier. About 8 months into working there, running myself ragged for them and never getting so much as a thank you for everything I did for them, I decided to sit down with one of the owners and express the way I felt to them. Hey boss one, I know you keep saying you want to make me a manager. Is there any reason you haven't yet?
Just haven't found the time or reason to train you for it yet.
What do you mean? I already know how to do everything from taking orders to ordering supplies when we're running low on something.
Yes, but it's not your place to do all those things yet.
What do you mean?
You're not a manager. You should not be doing manager tasks.
Alright, that's how you want to play it? Then consider it done. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't do anything aside from what they hired me to do. Make deliveries and only on my scheduled days. This went on for about 2 days and really upset the owners because now at least one of them had to be there at all times to make sure everything else was getting done. Eventually, Boss 1 called me into his back office to talk.
OP, what has gotten into you?
What do you mean?
You know you need to put in orders for supplies, yet we're running out of flour and soda syrup, and no orders have been placed.
I'm sorry, Boss 1, but you told me that I'm not a manager and I shouldn't be acting like one, so I stopped.
Stop being a child, OP. You know your responsibilities here and you need to do your job.
I am doing my job and my only job. If you want to make me a manager, I'll be happy to do those things.
You really think I'm going to make you a manager after this?
If I'm not a manager, then I won't do a manager's job.
Fine then, just quit. You need to get over yourself.
Okay, I quit. As of right now, I'm done.
Fine.
So I left. I was scheduled to work all week, which meant they were out of basically a manager. I ended up getting a call the following afternoon from Boss 1 demanding to know why I was so late for work, but I just reminded him that I no longer work there. Now, I was and still am very close friends with some of the old coworkers and heard all the drama as it unfolded. Turns out most of the employees ended up refusing to work because the owners had to be there full time now and they were awful. In my time working there, I hired about 5 people and all 5 left because I wasn't there to play manager anymore. They ended up closing about 6 months after I left because they couldn't get anyone to stay longer than about 2 weeks. OP was a golden employee for these people. They walked into a delivery job and just took on all these extra responsibilities and ran ragged for them and worked 80 hours a week for them sometimes. The least they could have done is value their employee that did everything and worked well and learned everything. Make them a manager. Sorry you have to pay a little bit more. You would have been in business still. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today, so if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and subscribe and turn notifications on if you haven't. All of those things help the channel grow immensely, so thank you no matter what you did. Whether you just watched the video, whether you liked, subscribed, whatever you did. Thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. That said, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.